Joining us with more on the war in Ukraine is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. He's a senior fellow and military expert at Defense Priorities, a think tank in Washington, D.C. Thank you, sir, for your time. I want to start with President Biden signing this $40 billion aid package to Ukraine. That's a lot of money. How significant is that?
Yeah, it's obviously every artillery round, every artillery gun, counter battery radar, the ammunition, things that are part of this new package here are certainly helpful. I mean, obviously, anything that you get above what you already have is going to be positive. But we need to be clear-minded about what this is going to accomplish on the battlefield, and if the idea that this is going to cause a pendulum swing or going to turn the tide in the direction of the Ukraine is just probably not going to happen. What these artillery pieces can do, and apparently already have started doing in the Donbas area, is that it can increase the price on any Russian advance. But by itself, it's just not enough to stop them, and that's something we really need to keep in mind.
So if it's not going to stop them, what kind of impact does it have? How does this, what you're talking about, how does that actually play out in terms of helping Ukraine?
I mean, I've been talking about this for actually well over a month, and things so far continue to go the same direction, is that Russia just has the numerical advantage, and the more tanks, more artillery pieces, heavier artillery pieces, and more ammunition. Everything that we send to Ukraine that's part of these packages, whether it's from the United States or Germany or some of these others, every single shell fired has to come from the United States and be shipped over. All the maintenance has to be done by somebody who knows these weapons. It's not part of their system, so it's just going to be incremental to what they already have. It's not going to be decisive. But on the Russian side, it looks like it is being decisive. They continue to move bit by bit, especially the northern shoulder of that Donbas fight. And right now, they're really putting a group in the Severodonetsk area of the Ukrainian forces in real jeopardy.
So this $40 billion, if what you're saying here, the $40 billion aid package is just not enough to help Ukraine advance, even sustain Ukraine throughout this prolonged fighting?
Look, everybody wants it to. I understand, and certainly that's the way we're portraying it. But I'm just telling you from my experience in armored warfare and my studying of this situation here, I just don't think it's going to be enough to stave off defeat. And I think that the Ukrainians need to think about maybe falling back to secondary defensive positions so that they don't get encircled there in the northern Severodonetsk area, which is exactly what the Russians are trying to do, to repeat what they did in Mariupol.
So you're suggesting fall back for those who are unfamiliar with the area. What specifically are you suggesting the Ukrainians do?
Yeah, what they did, I actually wrote something on this a couple of days ago with some detail in the organization 1945. Basically, they need to prepare further in depth, like 30, 40 kilometers back, new defensive positions, and then conduct a fighting withdrawal when it comes time, when they're forced out of those, so that they don't get surrounded. Because if they do get surrounded, then they won't get the opportunity to withdraw, and they may lose all of those thousands more soldiers, and they simply can't afford to lose anymore. And this is a tough fight. I mean, there's no easy answers here, and people just in the West need to be recognizing that this is a hard fight, and there's not an easy answer.
We see these pictures coming from the Russian Defense Ministry of Ukrainian prisoners of war, frankly. They're on the bus, they're being transferred. How concerned are you for the safety of these Ukrainian POWs?
Yeah, I'm really concerned about it, because there's a lot of bad blood between the Azov battalion and the Russians, because the Russian speakers and the Russian army claim that the Azov battalion, which is kind of a rightist group that was grafted into the Ukrainian defense forces, has been accused of doing war crimes of their own against the Russian population. And they now actually want to bring them up on charges, I guess, similar to what the Ukrainians did to that one Russian soldier not long ago, last week, I guess. And because the blood is so bad, you just fear for what's going on behind the scenes where we can't see.
So you've spelled out what you think the Ukrainian troops should do. What are you watching for in the coming days as Russia continues its operation in Donbass?
Yeah, everything depends on that northern shoulder right now. If Ukraine can somehow figure a way to stop the Russians, whether that's more artillery, maybe some air power, the limited air power they have, whatever, that's the key. if the Ukraine troops can prevent those troops in the northern shoulder from being surrounded, then they have a chance to buy time so that more weapons can come. But if they can't do that, then they have a hard choice. Do they withdraw back to a new line, or do they risk getting them cut off? And man, I hardly wish I was in Zelensky's position, because that's a tough call to have to make.
I don't know if you've got an easy answer to this, but you're saying that the $40 billion aid package is not enough, and you've outlined the challenges faced by the Ukrainian troops. What more could the West do other than this $40 billion aid package?
Yeah. Look, we have to understand something, that wars and battles aren't won by what happens at the point of contact. They are won or decided in the years and months ahead of time. So all the things that were already done that set the stage for this on both sides of the line are the die is cast. And that's why I say that the chances of this making a difference at this late hour are just not great. And we need to be thinking seriously about helping them form new lines of defense a little bit further to buy them more time, so that we don't get them cut off and possibly have the entire Donetsk area rolled up from the north to the south.
Daniel Davis is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and Senior Fellow at Defense Priorities. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks for having me.